What's love got to do with it? What's love but a second-hand emotion?
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Aurora has a message for that lovely person who sent her all of those Coca-Colas and some lovely flowers to match. Aurora says, thank you very much, and the next time her Mottie asks for a Coke, she knows exactly what to bring without deliberation. And without further ado, I am going to plunge right in with Julie Bissett. I think we might have a little fun today. Julie Bissett says, hello, Lady C, and also to your lovely furry gals as well, one of whom sends lots of love as she licks my hand. Thank you so much for yet another informative video. My pleasure. I enjoy them all immensely. Thank you. I have an observation question to pass along to you that I have found very interesting. I just saw a recent pap picture taken of the dastardly duo. Now I wonder who those could be, which had a copyright label across it that read, at Karl Larsen Photography / Backgrid. Isn't Karl Larsen the friend of Meghan's father, who together did a handful of YouTube videos together? I do believe he's the same person. Something smells mighty markly in this slip-up snapshot. I'd love to hear your thoughts, please. What do you think? Thank you so much for responding. Much love and respect to you. My dear, your memory is very good. Mr. Larsen there's actually a very interesting backstory to Mr. Larsen, which goes as follows. I'm just a proud, confident woman of colour, and everybody's racist against me when they say no to me. Has had a working relationship with Backgrid and Mr. Larsen long before Mr. Larsen, and I'm just such a wonderful person, are suspected of having set up Thomas Markle to prevent him from coming to the wedding. Fast forward, a few weeks ago, if you remember, Megsy Baby and H were chased through Manhattan at 80 miles an hour in streets that normally traffic crawls rather slower than a slug slithering its way across a veranda. But at 80 miles an hour, Backgrid were the photographers, the paps. And what did Megsy Baby do? Megsy Baby and H arrogantly demanded that the photos be handed over to them. And if you recall, Backgrid's impertinent, in quotes, response was, we got rid of our kings a long time ago. And basically the message was, and in any event, you're not a king, so just suck salt the way you expect everybody else to. Well, who's Megsy Baby gone back to? You'd have thought that after being humiliated the way they were by Backgrid, that they would want to have nothing more whatsoever to do with Backgrid, but not a bit of it. Never was there a greater love than ours. Romeo and Juliet, eat your hearts out. I mean, the whole thing is so posed. But there are reasons for this. Meghan and Harry are in a deep trouble, personally, professionally, socially, reputationally, and generally. They have to show unity. Now, I have a little bit of gossip for you from Dior, no less. Because Meghan is the one who fouled up Harry's Dior deal. Dior was never interested in Meghan. They were hoping to work out a deal with Harry. And of course, you can imagine what happened in Montecito. Well, why would they want you when they can get me? I mean, if you really loved me, you would be pitching for me. You're so selfish and mean. And we can just imagine themes along those lines. Now, whether, of course, they actually took place or not is beside the point. The point is, Harry said to Dior, no, you can't have me without Megsy Baby. And they said, no, we don't want Megsy Baby at all. So what did Megsy Baby and H do? They got their people to announce the done deal. You know, the problem with plotters and schemers is that they tie themselves up into knots. Now, insofar as Mr. Larsen and Backgrid are concerned, yes, Mr. Larsen is that same person. I have actually spoken to Mr. Larsen, who also last year, when Mr. Markle was coming as my guest to Royal Ascot, tried to wangle his way into the scene. And I was having none of it. Well, I don't need Mr. Larsen, so I told him to take a flying leap and lose my number. Megsy Baby needs Mr. Larsen, because Megsy Baby has to get the point across that all is well in Fantasyland when everybody knows all is not well. But it's well enough for them to put on an act that is as genuine as the tip of her nose and the veneers on her teeth. Poor Thomas Markle was done in by Backgrid and Mr. Larsen, as well as Jeff Rayner, because Jeff Rayner is the other person who is Backgrid, and it's really Jeff Rayner as opposed to Karl Larsen, who was the architect of what was supposed to be the preservation of Thomas Markle Sr.'s dignity, and became the ruin of his reputation. But they function in tandem. Talk about unsavory. JPM says, Lady C, I have I should, before even getting onto that, I should make the point. I hope nobody was deceived as to the realities of the situation in Montecito. You know, they couldn't even bring themselves to hold their hands. And you notice, not only were the photographs of them lovey-dovey together, but as soon as they thought the camera was off and their hands were totally apart, snap, snap went Mr. Larsen. Well, Mr. Larsen is a paparazzi, and Mr. Larsen, if he is Iscarioting the Iscariots, who are we to complain? I mean, he at least is a professional paparazzo. They are professionals of a different sort, as Bill Simmons pointed out. JPM says, Lady C, I have 2 questions, if I may, that I'd love you to respond to. 1, if I remember correctly, you've previously touched on how Meghan channels Diana. Yes, I have. Oh, I'm in contact with her. Oh. Santeria, Santeria, Santeria. Santeria, Santeria, Santeria. Oh. Your mother says we're doing a fabulous job. Your mother is in approval of everything I do. Your mother is speaking through me now. Isn't her just wonderful? Oh, Meg, I always knew that you were Jocasta to my Oedipus. Oh, Meg, please give me another one of those BJs. Oh, yes, Meg, please. Anyway, if I remember correctly, I need to settle down and be serious. You've previously touched on how Meghan channels Diana. What do you make of Harry's latest admission that has been giving him and Meghan approval ratings from beyond the grave? There's a second question. I'll deal with this one first, since the second question is entirely different. Every cock-up becomes a plus, and it's to Meghan's credit via Diana. And Harry is dumb enough to not only believe it, but to be letting everybody know that this is what is going on. Well, I don't know about you, but I think there's something seriously wrong in the land of Nod when somebody can actually admit, it's unbelievable, admit to the fact that his wife is in communication with his mother, his dead mother, who approves of everything that they're doing. And all their failures are not due to treachery, betrayal, disloyalty, misconduct, and any of the other unseemly modes of behavior which are apparently on display for our delectation and, may I say, complete repulsion, but because of bad luck. Everything is down to bad luck. They went to America and COVID struck. Then they gave the Oprah interview and Prince Philip died on them. That's bad luck. That's not poor timing on their behalf. That's not betrayal of family secrets and betrayal of family trust in that a lot of the supposed secrets were misremembrances and variations of fact. Remember the Queen's thing about recollections may vary? Well, as we all know, Harry has a very interesting relationship with recollection, and Meghan has a very inventive one as well. So that Prince Philip's death is bad luck. The fact we all knew he was dying is not knowledge, it's mistiming, it's bad luck. And on they go. The Queen's death coinciding with Harry's study in treachery, betrayal, and indiscretion, not to mention totally out of touch, using a memoir, in quotes, as if it were a confessional, and J.R. Moringer as if he is a priest, and that everything he says is to be kept within the confessional and promulgated to the millions that the publishers then rather ill-advisedly and financially disastrously had to pretty much give the book away to be able to turn it into the worldwide bestseller, which they did, and which if you recall, I told you what they were going to do, I told you how they do it, and they did it. I even told you the length of time it would sit on the bestsellers list, which more or less it did. Now, I'm no fortune teller, so I wasn't telling you something because I had a crystal ball. I was telling you because I had knowledge of the reality. All bad luck. And Diana is there telling Harry, continue on the path that Meghan is taking you down, because I approve. I approve. And he believes Meghan. I mean, you really couldn't make any of this up. This is insanity in action. At least that's what it looks like to me. Unless, of course, Harry and Meghan's people are putting words in their mouth and they're going to assume responsibility for their actions. And they're just actually going to understand that certain things are virtuous and certain things are vices and are vicious. And they're trying to pretend to us that, and to themselves, because you see, one of the problems with the Meghans of this world, and to an extent the Harrys as well, because you can't live with somebody who is as well, who presents the way Meghan presents, let's put it that way, without catching some of the disordered thinking, the disordered behavior. You get affected by it. You get corrupted by it. And unless you are very careful, you catch to an extent the diseased way of thinking and functioning that people of that ilk display. Especially if you are in a conjugal relationship with them. Because if it's a parent and a child, you can reject the parent. If it's a sibling, you can reject the sibling. If it's a spouse, how can you live together and not reject the spouse? And although the marriage is in trouble, and although there are difficulties, and as I have said before, Harry is, according to people he has told, called in the lawyers, they are still together. And they might always be together. Let's see what happens, because I'm not sure that Harry has the backbone or the character, because Harry is submissive. I'm not sure he is capable of breaking free. Time will tell. Now, part 2 of the questions. What do you make of Harry and Meghan claiming that bad luck is to blame for all their failures? Oh, well, I've covered it in answering part 1. Bad luck is to blame for all their failures. Can you imagine Prince Philip having the unmitigated gall to die on them? Then the Queen does the same thing. I mean, talk about a dastardly duo. And I'm not referring to Harry and Meghan. I'm referring to the previous Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. I mean, we really are dealing with madness. And if you haven't figured that out yet, I think it's time that we call time on this tune. Melanie Porter says, Prince William and his beautiful wife have been making waves over the last few days. He tried to ban AMid Scabies from covering his events, and she's been revealed as the person who insisted that the palace publish that wonderful comment about recollections may vary. I'd love your insights. Do you think they were right? I love it. Oh. Yes. Prince William, according to AMid Scabies, tried to get him banned from covering the events that he, Prince William, was involved with, and wasn't able to. Now listen to this. And wasn't able to. Doesn't that somehow defeat AMid Scabies and Harry and Meghan's claims about the power that the royal family has over the press and the ability that they have to control not only the narrative of the press, but the actions of the press people? Right there, AMid Scabies doesn't realize it, but he has blown a whole big hole in his rhetoric and his boss's rhetoric. Also, I get why Prince William didn't want AMid Scabies reporting. I have been in situations where I have said to the organisers, if such and such a journalist is present, I'm not coming. They usually choose me. But I can do it because I'm a private individual. Prince William, poor darling, can't do it because he is a member of the royal family fulfilling a constitutional function. And a part of the makeup of this country is a free press. That means that Prince William cannot control who writes what about him. Let me tell you, it's extremely discomforting when you are doing a function of any nature and you have some ghoul of a journalist who you know is pathological and just dreadful in the same room as you. It makes your skin crawl. Oh, and in fact, I should say, somebody told me that Prince William says, AMid Scabies makes his skin crawl. Well, AMid Scabies makes my skin crawl too. When we first published Meghan and Harry, the real story, my agent and I think my publisher as well got run up by AMid Scabies, trying to befriend them to get his name removed from everything. Because AMid Scabies thought, well, he's well known to have his own version of the facts. I mean, remember, he's biracial, half Caucasian on his father's side, half Caucasian on his mother's. That makes him biracial. He's 33. Oh, sorry, 41. Thought he was 33. Doubtless has never had any plastic surgery. God forbid he and Meghan colliding in that plastic surgeon's office. Oh, with their cut-off bits and dyed bits on the floor. Not a chance. No, he's never had any work done whatsoever. He just got coated in plastic as he got older. Well, I get why Prince William didn't want him there. And the fact that Prince William was not able to ban him shows very clearly that everything AMid Scabies, Meghan and Harry have been saying about the royal family's relationship with the press is a lie. Think about it. Now, as for Catherine insisting that that comment stay in, you know there's a big difference between never explain and never complain and rolling over and allowing yourself to be ravished. I know the difference because I don't allow anybody to roll me over and ravish me. And Catherine doesn't either. Sometimes the royals are a little bit too punctilious about their pusillanimity. But Catherine has backbone and gumption. So does William. But William on his own might not prevail. William with Catherine will prevail. She is an extremely powerful personality. I should say character. She's not a powerful personality. She's a powerful character. And there is a difference. She was absolutely right. And I'm glad she did it. Had she not done it, and had she not encouraged William to fight back as well, and if you recall, at that engagement, when he said we are most definitely not a racist family, had he not done that, and had she not fought for the promulgation of that quote, recollections may vary, Harry and Meghan would have had a totally clear run. You don't need to do much. You just need to do something effective, and you need to be clear about what you have done. You need to be focused. You need to draw a line and say, no, absolutely not. I've had to do it in my life vis-a-vis the press, because there are some things that are written about you and some claims that are made against you that are so damaging that if you let them stand for 1 second longer than they are able to stand for, You become collusive in your own demise. Dignity requires you to sometimes say, stop, enough, no. Failing to do that makes you the ideal victim. And I am glad to see that Catherine Wales knows the difference between being a woman of character and somebody who is so hemmed in by imagined restrictions that she allows people like Meghan and Harry to destroy her life, the institution she represents, damage her family, damage her personal relationships, including trying to damage her personal relationship with her husband. She did the absolutely right thing. And I say full marks to her. As I said, you don't need to do much, but you do need to do something. Call time on the tune. You only need to say, stop the music. Linda Phillips says, I've just finished reading Lady Campbell's Daughter of Narcissus. Apart from my admiration for her strength, grace, and generosity in dealing with such an extreme parent for so long, thank you. It also makes me realize that the royal family will likely be dealing with their own narcissist nightmare for many years to come out of necessity, because has had 2 children with her, and all in the public domain. It leaves one breathless once one understands how these people operate. Wow, wow, wow. And it's no wonder Trevor has just whitewashed her out of his life. It's called preservation, self-preservation of oneself. Linda Phillips, you've got it in one. This is why I have been so emphatic about the fact that there are no easy answers and there are no pat solutions. When you are dealing with people who are as overtly narcissistic and antisocial and ruthless as Meghan and now Harry, you have to be very aware of the fact that you don't know what's coming next. Predictability is based upon the discernment of reality and what is the likely outcome of a set of situations. When you are dealing with unreality, you don't know what's coming next, because there is no predictability with unreality, because anything becomes possible. And the royal family is aware of the fact that this is a scenario that they will have to, in one way, shape, or form, or the other, deal with for many years to come. There are 2 children involved. What is going to happen with and to those children? Doesn't matter what happens with the parents in terms of what's going to happen with the children. This is possibly an ongoing saga of the most dreadful nature. What makes it so dreadful is the public dimension. Now, if you read Daughter of Narcissus, you will know that at least my mother had the grace, the breeding, the decency, and was enough of a lady to keep all that was going on within the family private. She didn't go public, and she could have gone public, because we may not have been public figures in Britain, but we were certainly public figures in Jamaica, and I was a public figure in both. But my mother was too well bred, too much of a lady, to lower herself as to do what Meghan and Harry have done. She could have done it by telling any lie she wanted about me, or about my brother, or about my sisters, or about my father, or about her mother, or about her sister, or about my father's sisters, my father's brothers, you name it. The possibilities are endless when you're dealing with a liar, and a treacherous liar at that. And when you are dealing with people in the public eye who have used publicity as a weapon against those they wish to abuse, that is a terrible, terrible thing. That's why I have so much compassion for the royal family. I know a lot of what has gone on that fortunately has not got out. The public has an idea as to some of the possibilities, but the irony is Meghan and Harry have exposed themselves. They thought they were going to expose everybody else in the family, but they didn't. They hurled accusations and exposed themselves. But yes, the family is very aware of the fact, as is anybody with any foresight and knowledge of how to of what the possibilities are when dealing with people of Meghan and Harry's ilk. But fortunately, Meghan and Harry seem to have, or at least have said that they have, learnt their lesson, because trashing the royal family has not been the winner they thought it was going to be. Will they have another bite of that cherry? I think it's only a matter of time. Because you see, they need to sell something. And are they going to now be able to retrieve the situation by behaving decently? Slowly catching monkey is what they should have been playing from the very beginning. But they weren't playing it because she and he, to an extent, are very, very impatient and voracious in their desire for attention, approbation, recognition. They want to be recognized as the great people they regard themselves as being. But they don't have the stuff of greatness within them. A great ego does not make a great person. Lindsay Drew says, funny that she is a good actress in private and a fairly poor one professionally. Very well spotted, Lindsay Drew. Well, I'm going to tell you a little story because the Meghans of this world can be as transparent as glass. But I know from my own personal experience with my mother, who I could see through as if the maid had just cleaned the glass. She was that transparent. But I remember an incident in Grand Cayman the year before she died, when I don't remember what it was she wanted or what it was we were even speaking about. And it was always about her. I mean, you could sit down for 6 days in her company. She was only ever interested in herself. But she wanted something out of me. I cannot remember what it was. And I got a glimpse of the seductive, manipulative charm and how she could suck you in emotionally. And I am not aware of having experienced that before, and I didn't experience it thereafter until she died. But that gave me an insight into how she was able to push and pull with people, including Daddy, because there was something extremely seductive and potent in that moment where you were just sucked in. And I was surprised that A, she did it to me, and B, that I nearly allowed her to get away with it. That means that on some level, she was an appalling actress, because you could see her coming a mile off once you knew the act. But on another level, when she wanted to manipulate you into doing whatever it was she wanted you to do, she was a genius at it. And these people, that's how they succeed. And that's why they keep their victims hooked. Their victims don't remain hooked necessarily because their victims don't see through them. It is that they have the ability to supersede the observations that you have about them, to override those observations, and to prevail despite your observations. That is one of the gifts that they have, to put it in as complimentary a way as possible, that allows them to manipulate people. And that leads to the befuddlement of their victims. Because on the one hand, you know that you're dealing with fish, and on the other hand, it's flying like fowl. And if only momentarily, you are on the journey, you are on the flight with the fowl. I hope that explains it. I suppose you could say you're dealing with a form of insanity, and sometimes they take you along for the ride. So it doesn't matter how good or bad an actress they are, and people like that are usually very good actresses initially. Well, let me put it another way. They have convincing acts, but because the act is an artifice and because the act is not grounded in reality, and because you're grounded in reality, sooner or later you will wake up to the fact that you are being had by a ham. Doesn't alter the fact that they still are sometimes very good at what they do. Margaret Springer says, Dear Lady C, and we're going to end on a rather more serious note because this is important. Dear Lady C, I am really puzzled as to why many people appear more concerned about climate change than plastic pollution. Some consider that what is called climate change is just a naturally occurring long-term climatic alteration, whereas plastic pollution of our air, land, sea is a very real and dangerous phenomenon. I would appreciate hearing your thoughts on this. Thank you so much and very best wishes to you. Margaret Springer, you're absolutely right, and I have been trying to make this point for some time. If you study history, you will understand that the climate is subject to change. Just Google the Green Sahara and the amount of damage that one major volcanic eruption does, and you will see that a lot of the fashionable aspects of the climate change debate are not that well founded scientifically. Now, I am not saying that we do not need to clean up our act and improve our conduct, because we do. We are a very developed, luxuriant civilization where more people lead lives of what used to be regarded as luxury in previous centuries that are now regarded as deprivation. So right there, that should tell you that there is something seriously amiss where a society that has a luxury to the extent that it is regarded as, if you don't possess sufficient luxury, as being deprived, even though in previous generations and previous centuries, what even the deprived have would be regarded as luxury. But that's not the same thing as we should be responsible and we should be doing our bit. But the danger is not so much because climate change to an extent is out of our control, in my view. In that if you have a volcanic eruption that does a great deal of damage, for instance, the volcanic eruption in the east that blotted out the summer in the northern hemisphere in 1816, which resulted in Mary Shelley writing Frankenstein while on the shores of Lake Geneva. Those two things were directly related: a volcanic eruption the year before and the obliteration of the sun and the ruin of the climate in the northern hemisphere for a year after. That's one thing, but plastics are a terrible, terrible problem, and that is very easily within our control. We need to wake up to the danger that plastics are. I think the world is heading in that direction. It is not yet as embraced a cause as other causes. I suspect it will come with time. And then, as with everything else in life, it's going to be overdone. And there's going to need to be a correction because the pendulum will have swung too much in the opposite direction. Because some plastics are excellent, and plastics are a great discovery in their proper place. But the damage that we have been doing to our environment via plastics, and it's not only plastics, the way that some nations who are very fish orientated and have fish heavy diets trawl the seabeds of the oceans and destroy the life there is also something that we as a civilization need to contend with. We need to protect our planet so that we can continue living upon it respectfully. Where the rub comes in is we don't need people jumping on doctrinaire bandwagons, chatting rubbish for their own enrichment or the enhancement of their influence or power, to the detriment of the reality of the cause. Not quite as easy to do as it is to say, because sadly, society has always been prone to have people taking advantage of it under the guise of leadership comes an awful lot of egotism. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I can know what subjects you would like us to speak about. Okay, thank you so much. And if you have truly enjoyed this, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and Godspeed.